I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me. And they tell you don't go out of the house on the hill, and it's like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere.
¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! Yo no estaba enterada de nada. Que había, o sea, los asesinatos sí, pero que habían comido humanos! ¡Humanos!
Back in 1998, Mel Gibson spoke about what he believed were darker realities within Hollywood, and at the time many dismissed those comments as controversial or unreliable, but years later, especially following the exposure surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, some of those remarks have been revisited with renewed interest, alongside concerns raised by figures like Corey Feldman, Elijah Wood, and Jim Caviezel, who have each, in their own way, spoken about troubling aspects of the industry, though it remains essential to clearly separate verified facts from personal claims or allegations, as not all statements have been independently confirmed. What can be said with confidence is that discussions around power, accountability, and misconduct in entertainment did not begin with Epstein's arrest but have surfaced repeatedly over decades, often only gaining widespread attention after major events bring them into focus, which is why looking at both the documented evidence and the broader context is key before forming conclusions about what may or may not have been overlooked.
Believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I've told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information.
In 1993, Corey Feldman reported to the Santa Barbara Police Department that he believed abuse involving influential figures in Hollywood was occurring, and he has since stated that he tried to provide names but felt his concerns were not fully pursued at the time. In the years that followed, his claims were often dismissed publicly, with many viewing them through the lens of his past as a child star. But as wider conversations about misconduct in the entertainment industry gained momentum, some began to revisit his statements, while still emphasizing that many of the specific allegations he referenced have not been independently confirmed.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are.
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
Corey Feldman has consistently maintained that abuse existed within parts of Hollywood and that some of those involved remained active in the industry, while also describing how he felt dismissed or sidelined when he tried to bring attention to these issues. Over time, he has pointed to responses ranging from silence to professional isolation, which influenced how his claims were perceived publicly. But it remains important to distinguish that while his statements have contributed to broader conversations about misconduct in entertainment, many of the specific allegations he has mentioned have not been independently verified, and he is one of several figures whose concerns have added to an ongoing and complex discussion.
This most dangerous game, as they referred to it, was a matter of human hunting. And when a mind control slave such as myself was stripped of clothes and turned loose in the woods, I was then hunted by George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton, among others. But they were the main ones. I do not believe that it was necessary for them to have subjected me to this form of trauma. There were so many other traumas going on at the time. My mind was already prime conditioned for mind control program. So I really don't understand it, except for the fact that they found great pleasure in this form of human hunting. And they took it from particular military maneuvers. And
which base we're talking about when you was recalling the situation when Clinton was president and Mr. Bush? Which airspace?
There's a little place called Lampe, Missouri, that's just across the Arkansas line. Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas at that time, and his whole corporation that was Mena, Arkansas was the main hub for, was bringing cocaine into this CIA compound. And this particular Swiss villa, as they called it, amphitheater in Lampy, Missouri, was actually a CIA compound out in the woods, military fencing all around it, and mind control training center where there was high-tech equipment was in one building. There were offices in another. There were little Swiss-style villas or cabins where different officials in either the military, CIA, or politics would stay, and it would house them while they were there for either the cocaine activities or the paramilitary operations that were going on. You know, there were black helicopters everywhere, total robotic guys that were being used in special forces.
Which special force are you referring to? There was also another program, Mind Control, by Delta Force,
Yeah.
right? Can you describe, what is your knowledge? Do you have any knowledge of that, or you met these people, and can you describe me some more of this?
The Delta Force and the Navy SEALs are an elite part of the military that is mind controlled, like the mercenaries. I'm more familiar with the mercenaries that were being trained to carry out international operations that weren't necessarily sanctioned by Congress, and they were brought into other countries, such as South America, and to carry out their orders. When in a country like that, the airplanes would then come back with the drugs, and it was then sold on the streets here in America, and really worldwide. The CIA's so-called war on drugs was nothing more than the CIA eliminating their competition and taking over the drug industry. So it was all inter-attached. It all interworked.
It's important to separate what's been proven from what remains speculation, especially in conversations this serious, because while the materials tied to Jeffrey Epstein, including flight logs and court records, confirmed real wrongdoing and revealed connections to powerful individuals, they do not automatically validate every extreme claim circulating online. And treating all information as equally credible can blur the truth rather than clarify it. When it comes to Mel Gibson, his history is complex and well documented, including the 2006 DUI incident and offensive remarks he later apologized for while acknowledging struggles with alcohol. But there has also been renewed attention on older interviews like his 1998 conversation with Mike Figgis, where he spoke critically about Hollywood, and while some revisit those comments in light of later controversies, it's still essential to approach them carefully without assuming they predicted specific events. Ultimately, questioning power, accountability, and past behavior is valid, but meaningful conclusions require grounding those discussions in verified evidence rather than extending them into claims that have not been independently supported.
The first time I really came over here, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, weird town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them. And they tell you don't go to the house on the hill. And it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like. Could it? And then you find out later on the track.
According to Mel Gibson, his early experience in Hollywood felt strangely unsettling, almost like walking into a tense movie scene where conversations suddenly stop when an outsider appears. And although he sensed that something beneath the surface didn't feel right, he initially questioned his own judgment, convincing himself that he might be overthinking or misreading the environment, rather than trusting that his instincts were picking up on something real about the culture he had just stepped into.
We were exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time. And you think, now this is what I mean by actually starting to swim up or downstream with the rest of the salmon. Eventually, if you stay here long enough, you'll find yourself doing that. And you have to, there's a way of doing it without doing it. And that takes time. and it takes relaxation.
Looking back, comments made by Mel Gibson in the late 1990s are sometimes revisited in light of later events connected to Jeffrey Epstein, whose crimes, confirmed through court records and investigations, exposed real abuse networks and powerful associations, but it remains essential not to connect unrelated claims or assume foresight without clear evidence. Importantly, Gibson's name does not appear in publicly released Epstein documents, including flight logs, which is a key distinction when separating fact from speculation. While his own career followed a different trajectory, particularly with The Passion of the Christ, a self-financed project that achieved major commercial success despite industry hesitation and controversy, and years later similar conversations emerged around Sound of Freedom, directed by Alejandro Monteverdi and produced by Eduardo Verastegui, starring Jim Caviezel, where Gibson offered support but was not a primary creative force, and the film's strong box office response sparked debate not only about its subject matter but also about how media narratives can sometimes focus as much on surrounding discussions as on the core issues, illustrating how conversations in Hollywood often combine verified facts, public perception, and ongoing debate, all of which require careful, evidence-based understanding.